it's just not Christmas unless you play part of Handel's Messiah. You know, I have to have my Handel's fixed. Did you watch the thing on television last night? They had BYU TV had a special on how Handel wrote that, and the people that were writing with it, and who actually was the first libretto that sung the alto part, or the soprano part. Just a wonderful piece. Anyway, it doesn't matter. History, more than you need anyway. That's okay. So today's theme, if you haven't picked it up by now, you'll know that today's theme, the third week of Advent, is peace. Yeah, we got peace. Everybody remember that one? Come on, old hippies. I know you're out there. I know you're there. There's one back, so that's true. But peace, yeah, that comes, you know, and nowadays, all you have to do is go to the junior high and look at what the buttons that's on the kids' purses and on some of the tie-dyed shirts that they're wearing right now, and you'll see that what goes around comes around. So we thought that died a long time ago. No, it's back. Comes from the word peace. It's our translation of the word shalom. And Christ used the word shalom a lot. And shalom, he said, my peace, my shalom I give to you, as in the upper room. That as the disciples were gathered together, I give you, not as the world gives, differently. My peace is different than what I have, than what others offer. And so that we have this word that we translate it goes so much more than just peace. It means wellness. It means wholeness. It means the entirety of you is at rest. It's good to go. So when we talk about the peace of the season, we're just not speaking about this happy little encounter, happy little countenance we put on our face. When we offer the peace, and this is a training moment too, that when we do the passing of the peace, this is what they have in mind. That you stand and you talk to, and you give it to your neighbor, that you turn to your neighbor and you say, the peace of Christ be with you. And they take that and receive it and again pass it on to the next person. We pass the peace down the road so that the peace of Christ, the shalom, the wholeness, the well-being is understood. And you receive it and pass it on. John starts off, you know, that we did this reading this morning, and if you were careful to catch pieces of it, they said that one of the things that they did, that this exhortation that he gives right here in John, in Luke, that Luke records in 3:7 through 18, that the 18th verse says, John exhorted them a whole bunch more. He brought the good news to them a whole bunch more. And what's really interesting at that is he starts off his sermon not with, glad you're here, not with, you know, that some sort of introduction of Handel's Messiah. John starts off the way that a lot of pastors do, you know, that when they want to get on the good side of the people that's here. You bunch of snakes! I just wondered how that went over. And they call it good news, which is interesting. Who told you that you could flee the fire that's getting ready to come? Where did you get that information? You brood of vipers. Yeah. That'll cause the offering plate to just overflow all That's okay. That's okay. John had his way of doing things. You don't see me wearing mole hair or camel's hair either. You know, I'm eating wild honey and locusts. But he had a way to do it. In the wilderness. You know, when we talk about John and his sermons, you know that John is there, the voice of one who cries, you know, prepare the way of the Lord. And in John's gospel, or in Luke's gospel, who is John talking to when he calls them you brood of vipers? Because it's different than the Matthew's context. Matthew says that the Pharisees and the Sadducees had come out there, and that's who he called a bunch of snakes. But in Luke says that John was talking to the crowds. To the crowds. And the crowds could have been anybody. It probably contained some Sadducees and Pharisees and tax collectors and soldiers and all the rest of the people. The soldiers were probably there to see that the money that the tax collectors got didn't get robbed. Make sure they do their job, that they get the right amount of money and collect it all. And John has words for all of them, just collectively. Crowds is another name in Luke for misfits. You bunch of misfits. You bunch of people that are on the outside, the people that are the other, people who are marginalized and don't have a whole lot of say about anything. But they knew enough to go seek out John. And what they did was say, that once John exhorted them, once he said what he had to say and called them what he said, and brought to them this preparation of the word that was coming into the world, he moved them to the point that every one of them, the tax collectors, the soldiers, and the people that were gathered there, said, "What should we do? What should we do?" Moved them to the point that they knew they couldn't stay the way that they were, which is good, which is real good. John had a way of motivating that few pastors have. He just knew how to get the job done in the wilderness. I like this because the passage comes from Isaiah chapter 43. In the wilderness, a voice cries out in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Or a voice cries out in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Or a voice cries out in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Yeah, you see? Yeah, Isaiah had it right. In the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. In those places of desolation, in those places that nobody wants to go to, and in places that is so dry and arid and absent and vacant and full of things that hurt you. That's the place to prepare the way of the Lord, because that's where Jesus comes to you in your wilderness. So it's an interesting point. One of the things that I'm so glad that the screens came back up, because I'm in trouble without them. I was thinking about this because I was reading part of the problem. I named this sermon today, and I don't do that. You know that I don't ever give them names, so if you go back and look for them, you have to look for them by date. But I named this one, Advent Expectations, but I actually did it just the opposite of that. I put down there peace, privilege. What was the third one? Hang on. Patience. That was by design, by the way. Peace, patience, privilege, Advent, expectations. Because that's what Jesus asked about what did you expect. When Jesus, and later on in chapter 7, talks to the people that went to see John. When you went to see John, what did you expect? What were your expectations when you headed out into the wilderness to see him? A reed shaken by the wind? No. Someone who is preparing the way of the Lord is what their expectations were. What are your expectations this Advent? As we can put it in the context of today, peace, patience, because every time we expect, that usually implies a little bit of something that's coming in the future. So, our patience, do we have the patience to wait for whatever it is we expect? And privilege. And this is the biggie for today. Because we're getting to the point, and I'm not going to chastise our society too much, but we're getting to the point of where instant gratification seems to be the order of the day. Do you remember when on television? I like this one too. See, this is where we're headed right now. But do you remember when you're watching your commercials on television for Ron Popeil's fishing, whatever it was, and he said that all you have to do is get your credit card out, swipe it, and call it in, and you can expect it in about what? 4 to 6 weeks. Expect your delivery in 4 to 6 weeks. Do you think that works today? No, Amazon Prime made it so that's out of the way, because everybody here, if we order it today by 11 o'clock, when are we going to get it? Tomorrow. You're going to get it tomorrow. You order it today by a certain time, you'll have it tomorrow. And now what are they talking about getting? 2 hours. Same day. Same day. We got these little bitty drones flying around bumping into each other. Because you know that after Amazon does it, there'll be a whole bunch more that does the same thing. We want things our way, and we want it now, we want it fast, and we want it just the way that we want it. And we don't really have a whole lot of time for expectations and waiting on it. This is what's so special about Luke's gospel, because Luke understood patience, and he starts off with the Mary story, the Magnificat, and the pregnancy, and having to wait. And we can't change certain things, right? There are certain things that you couldn't speed up even if you wanted to. It'd be nice if we could, if mom tells dad, we're expecting, and he said, well, good, tomorrow? No, not exactly. But you see, there are certain things that you can't hurry no matter how much you want them to. Kind of all over the place this morning. But that's okay. Expectation, that's what we're talking about. Peace, privilege, and patience this morning for our Advent expectation. So we think about this Prince of Peace, that's his name that we call him, that is to come. And we think about what our expectations are in the society that we live. We move way too fast anymore. We can't stand to wait in line for anything. Anybody besides me get in the wrong line at the grocery store? See, I don't want to wait. I don't want to do that. And what the message of this morning is that you have to have patience. They came to John in the wilderness. They walked there. They had to think about what they were doing. They knew that John was preaching a gospel of repentance, a way of changing your mind, of changing your behavior, the way that you do things. Is that your expectations for this morning? As we look at the Christ to come, do we even think about what we expect anymore? See, because we're living in such a time that we are demanding, commanding that things happen when we want them to happen. Our order of business is such that we don't want to wait, and we demand the people that we don't have to wait, and we're willing to pay for it. We go through the airport, we want the express check, right? We'll do that, we'll pay extra for that. The fast pass that for, we don't have them around here, but for the tollways around Chicago, I don't want to have to pull off, pay my taxes. I'll pay extra. Just let me keep going straight. You see, we don't want to wait for anything anymore. And Advent says, your holy expectation is not going to happen on your time. And so you might as well just prepare for it and wait for it. But don't put it so far out of your mind that you don't consider it anymore. And this is where we're having troubles in the world today. That it is so much a distant, it is something we can't control, it is something beyond us, and so we just put it way out there and don't give it any thoughts anymore. But there'll come a time that's been promised to you that the Christ will come again, the Messiah will return and set all this nonsense that's going on today back in the order that it should be. And we ought to be really, really thinking about what that time, our expectations of what that time might look like, because it's going to dictate how you live your life today. That when Christ returns, what is it that Christ is going to see about our lives in the way that we live? How did you treat your neighbor? Did you do what I asked when you left? Did you love your neighbor as yourself? Like the crowds that were there. Did you share your coat? If you had two, did you give one of them away? What kind of fruit did you produce? Because that's what I asked you to do. What's your garden look like? That was one of the things that I had for this patience thing, besides the idea of a pregnant person. You can't change that. A garden is what it is. And here's the other thing that John is telling those crowds that came out. You can't stand on your past. There are no legacies here. You can't say just because we're from Abraham that we've got some sort of special privilege to get into the kingdom. There's nothing that defines legacy like this right here, right? We'll never have to do anything in the world. You can't change that right there. And God says to the children that came out there that John tells them that God can raise up from stones, if he wanted to, people that will be called sons of Abraham. It's the same way that he could tell, as if I could say to you right now, if God wanted to, go out in the parking lot and get a bunch of rocks and fill these seats in here. We have to do something. You can't stay the way that you were. But what God says through John, what John is proclaiming is that do what you do, just do it according to the will of God. Tax collectors that came out that day, they didn't say, should we stop being tax collectors? Should we stop being soldiers? Should we stop being proud? No, just do it better. Produce fruit. Get better at what you do. And know that I'm preparing the way for the one to come. As we look at one more year of Christmas, there should be so much hope and joy and peace and love and all in that. The music that we'll hear this evening, it reminds us of the hope that we have. It reminds us that no matter what, that God has not forgotten us. It reminds us that Christ came to save us and Christ will come again. That's the promise that we have. And because we have that promise, then you should also share in the peace that comes along with it. The peace that Christ says that I give you, not the way the world gives. St. Francis of Assisi had a great prayer. And I think Dean got it up on, yeah. I'd like to close today thinking about that, because this should be our peace. We're not tax collectors and we're not soldiers, and we can't go back to the Jordan River and be with John. But the message of Christmas and the message of peace is right here. This is what we can do. This is what we can do. Right here, right now, today, forever, for our ministry. Join with me if you will. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me show love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. And where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in the giving that we receive, it is in the pardoning that we are pardoned, it is in the dying that we are born again to eternal life. There are no legacies. John says that. We have to do it over every day. As we get out of bed each morning, we should give thanks for the peace that is offered to us, and receive it and pass it on. This is what we're called to do. Thanks be to God.